Let me say something that most men don't say out loud, even to their closest friends. Modern dating doesn't really hurt, it just slowly wears you down. At first, you don't even notice it. You tell yourself you're just being patient, that it's part of the process, that things will make sense eventually. But then one day, you catch yourself thinking something you didn't expect to think. I don't know if this is worth it anymore. And that thought doesn't come from being rejected once or twice. It doesn't come from a bad breakup. It comes after you've tried, after you've genuinely shown up. You worked on yourself, you got healthier, you built confidence instead of insecurity. You learned how to communicate instead of shutting down or lashing out. You stopped chasing people who clearly weren't choosing you. You did what everyone said you were supposed to do. And still, something felt off. Nothing ever felt solid. You could have great conversations, great chemistry, even moments that felt real. And then suddenly it would all fade. No explanation, no closure, just distance. And after that happens enough times, you stop feeling confused and start feeling tired. Because men are okay with effort. Men are okay with responsibility. Men are even okay with rejection. What men struggle with is pouring energy into something that never seems to go anywhere. You start asking yourself questions that don't feel good to ask. What am I actually working toward? What is the end goal here? Why does it feel like nothing ever sticks? Dating used to feel like forward motion. Now it often feels like running in place. And the hardest part is that no one really talks about this honestly. Because on the surface, everything looks fine. You're meeting people. You're going on dates. You're technically participating. But emotionally, you feel detached. Like you're always halfway in and halfway out. Because you've learned, slowly, that being fully in is risky. Something changed in dating that most men can feel but can't always explain. Effort used to build security. Now effort just keeps you relevant. Consistency used to create trust. Now it's just expected. Showing interest used to mean something. Now it's assumed, and sometimes even devalued. And the moment you stop bringing energy, planning, momentum, everything cools off. That does something to you over time. Because you're not just connecting with one person anymore. You're competing with options you'll never see. With attention that's constantly divided. With curiosity that resets every time someone new shows up. With the idea that there might always be someone better, closer, more exciting, more convenient. So nothing ever really settles. And when nothing settles, you can't relax. You're always aware of yourself, your words, your timing, your tone. You're always wondering if being honest will push someone away, if being quiet will make you forgettable, if being consistent will make you boring. That's not intimacy. That's anxiety. Men don't talk about how mentally draining that becomes. Dating starts to feel like being evaluated all the time, but never actually chosen. You can be kind. You can be emotionally intelligent. You can be stable. You can listen. You can show up. And still feel like you could be replaced at any moment. Not because you did something wrong, but because in a world of endless options, depth loses to novelty. And after a while, something inside you changes. You stop bringing your full heart, not because you don't want connection, but because you've learned that opening too fast costs you. This is where people misunderstand men. They say men are emotionally unavailable now. That's not what's happening. Men are emotionally cautious. Men still want depth, but only when it feels safe. Because vulnerability in the wrong environment doesn't feel brave. It feels dangerous. Men learn very quickly which parts of themselves are welcome and which parts quietly change how they're seen. They learn what can be shared, what should be kept to themselves, what might come back later in a moment of conflict or indifference. So they adapt. They stop oversharing early. They stop attaching to potential. They stop building emotional castles on unstable ground. Not because they don't care, but because they care enough to protect themselves. Another realization hits around this time, and it's a painful one. Your investment doesn't feel special anymore. Your attention isn't rare. Your interest doesn't feel unique. Your effort feels expected. And when effort is expected, it stops being appreciated. Men feel this deeply, even if they don't articulate it. They feel when their time is treated casually, when their consistency is taken for granted, when their presence doesn't actually change anything. They feel when they're interchangeable. And once a man feels interchangeable, he starts pulling his energy back. Not to punish anyone, not to make a point, just instinctively. He stops overgiving. He stops bending himself to fit. He stops trying to prove his worth through effort. Dating begins to feel transactional. And that's usually when men start redirecting their energy elsewhere. They focus on their bodies, their careers, their finances, their routines, their friendships. They build structure where dating once provided emotional movement. And something unexpected happens. They find peace. And once a man experiences peace, chaos loses its appeal. The emotional highs don't feel as intoxicating anymore. The unpredictability stops feeling exciting. The drama starts feeling expensive, so dating becomes optional. And optionality changes how you show up. You're calmer. You're slower to attach. You don't chase sparks. You look for stability. You don't force connections. You let them reveal themselves. Not because you're closed off. Because you finally know what it costs you when things fall apart. This is why modern dating feels like a losing game for so many men. Not because men are losing every interaction, but because the emotional math doesn't add up. The cost keeps increasing. The reward keeps shrinking. Men aren't afraid of rejection. They're tired of investing sincerely in systems that reward detachment. So they hedge emotionally. They don't expect much early on. They don't hope too fast. They keep one foot grounded in their own life. And a system where men feel the need to emotionally hedge is not a system built for deep connection. It's a system built for movement, not meaning. This isn't about blaming women. It's about understanding incentives. People don't behave based on ideals. They behave based on what the environment rewards. Right now, the environment rewards options, novelty, and low attachment. So men adjust. Quietly, logically, without announcing it. They're not giving up on love. They're giving up on instability. They're choosing peace over emotional chaos. Clarity over confusion. Self-respect over constant validation seeking. The answer isn't anger. It isn't isolation. It isn't pretending you don't care. The answer is awareness. When a man understands the system, he stops internalizing it. He stops thinking something is wrong with him. He stops measuring his worth by inconsistent outcomes. He stops chasing connection at the expense of his mental health. And from that place, something real becomes possible again. Because grounded men don't rush. They don't force. They don't beg for certainty. They choose carefully. They invest slowly. They walk away without resentment. Modern dating only feels like a losing game when you play it without understanding the rules. Once you see them, you're free. Free to engage differently. Free to step back without guilt. Free to build a life that feels solid, with or without a relationship. If this video put words to something you've been feeling but couldn't quite explain, share it with someone who's been sitting in that same quiet confusion. This is Brotherhood HQ. We're not here to rage. We're not here to blame. We're here to help men understand the world they're navigating, so they can move through it with clarity, dignity, and peace.